Welcome
Hello,
back.
everyone.
Welcome back to Talking Blondes. This is episode 5, and we have a really great topic. I know we say that for every episode, but I think what's
It's true.
a little true, just a little bit, but we feel like this particular topic is very much needed to discuss because that's a big theme of Talking Blondes is having vulnerable conversations that are not always easy to have. And we're going to talk about what's required to have healthier, mature conversations. Yes, but before we get into all that, we'll just do our, quick little intro. I'm Virginia, and I am coming to you from North Idaho, the Pacific Northwest.
Potatoes. Hashtag
Potatoes.
potatoes.
Yes. We do have potatoes. We do. It's a thing. It's a
I
thing.
love it. I love it. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. Or if it's your first episode, just tuning in right now, welcome to the party. My name is Caitlin, and I am coming to you from the Buckeye State of Ohio, the heart of it all in the Midwest.
And I just want to take a moment here because we are doing a very unusual recording time. It is 9 o'clock at night, Caitlin's time, and she looks so radiant and so fresh and ready to do this. I have no excuse. I just came off work and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to give our community what we what we want here to do tonight. But I just want to I just want to say, Caitlin, like I just love how you show up for our episodes,
Listen,
regardless of what's going on.
Listen, I work from home. If I'd been in an office doing all kinds of stuff throughout the day, this would not be happening. It
This
would
would
and
not be a thing.
but apart from that, Virginia, you also absolutely look radiant. You don't need any glow up or anything. You just always bring this natural, amazing beauty. Beauty, wow, there's a new word. Natural, amazing beauty. Listen. We bring it all. We make up words here on this show. No, you are gorgeous just as you are, and you look radiant. So
Well,
none of
thank you.
that. None of that.
None of that, but
None of
I
that.
did have to point it out because
Well, thank you.
I am impressed with it, and you look amazing. You always look amazing. But I loved how you actually kind of came up with a new word, uh, beauty, almost sound like beauty and immunity. Um,
I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna think about that like at 4 in the morning. I'm gonna wake up and think like, yeah, remember the last cringe thing you did on the
last
episode?
cringe
Remember
thing.
that? It's gonna
Well,
haunt me for the rest of forever.
I actually like it because okay, our topic for today, I'm just going to go right out and say it. It's on emotional intelligence. And what comes with emotional intelligence is emotional maturity. And there is such a thing called emotional immunity. It's a thing, okay? And we can talk about that too, but it's a thing. So when you like doing a little word mashup, I was like, you know what, though? It kind of works.
So
It kind of
really,
works.
I planned it, is what we're
Yeah.
saying.
No, it's
Planned it
really,
for
it is.
sure.
It is
Yeah.
for sure.
I
So,
love it. That's perfect.
so we thought we would start off with a quote I came across, and it's with one of the Instagram accounts I follow, and I really, really liked it. It's a pinned post as well, and you can find it on holistic dot therapist. And the quote goes, "The more emotionally intelligent you become, the less you take things personally. You start
Mm,
to see that other people's behaviors are often reflections of their own struggles, not a statement about your worth."
amen, sister.
Yeah,
Amen.
I like that
Amen.
a lot. And
Yes.
before I go into my first kickoff question here, there's an emphasis in our society on how to have emotionally intelligent conversations. And Caitlin and I, what we're hoping that we're doing for our community here is delivering that to you guys on how to have these conversations that are sometimes, heavy things to talk about, but how we do it in such a way where hopefully you feel like there's intelligence and maturity behind it. Because that quote reminds me that when we all go into these heated conversations, it's probably has a lot to do because we're emotionally dysregulated as a person. And again, that's why there's such an emphasis these days on mental and emotional health, because that's a big part on how to have these complex, heavy, complicated conversations that no, the solution is not to emotionally avoid them. So you've probably been hearing a lot lately on our podcast about emotional avoidance, and I feel like quite a few of us struggle with that. And so we won't have the conversation because we're afraid of having it. Maybe the person we were with doesn't make us really feel safe enough to be vulnerable. So these are all things that we want to address for the most part in today's episode. So I'm going to start off with a kickoff question for Miss Caitlin here, and kind of set the tone here. But what does emotional intelligence mean to you, Miss Caitlin?
Ooh, great kickoff question. So for me, emotional intelligence is something that I have tried to navigate and just really be, what's the word I'm thinking of? Conscientious of throughout my
Mm-hmm.
life. I am an empath, so for anyone listening who maybe doesn't know what that is, someone who typically is pretty sensitive, but also picks up on the emotions of others around them. And I have to be careful because, like many empaths, not just myself, if I'm around someone who's very sad or very depressed or this or that, I often unknowingly, without realizing it, can take those emotions on myself.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, being very sensitive and sometimes it comes with being an empath, I can also lead with my heart first and not my head, which I don't think is always a bad thing. I think there can be a strength in that. But I
Mm-hmm.
think in my mind, the way I look at emotional intelligence is whether you're an empath or not, taking your emotions and having some not necessarily control, but being able to know that, okay, I'm sad or I'm angry or I'm this or I'm that, or the person who I'm with is feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a thing, but it doesn't mean that it has to define the situation. I don't have to make that lead how this goes. I might
Mm-hmm.
be feeling really upset right now, but I can hold on to that. That can be a thing, but I can also get through the situation, whoever I'm mad at, whoever I'm around, whatever it might be, and not let my emotions be in the driver's seat. To
Mm-hmm.
me, that is a big part of emotional intelligence. I think another part of emotional intelligence is, at least the way it has shown up in my life, is seeing that, kind of to your point, Virginia, just because someone has said something maybe that feels insensitive or hurtful, or you don't get a response that you were hoping for, doesn't mean that it's anything to take personally. I think emotional intelligence is often showing up in ways where you're looking past what has been said or done, or not said or not done, and instead you're seeing that there's a real person that you're talking to, and
Mm-hmm.
that there is so much more going on inside someone's mind than we'll ever know. Um, so I think, I hope I answered that kind of along the lines of a decent definition. I don't have Webster's out in front of me, and I'm definitely not an expert like you are in all of these things and defining them. Miss Life Coach over here. But yes, for me, it shows up in approaching all of life's different situations, whether someone's happy, excited, scared, sad, overwhelmed, depressed, anything across the board, showing up to those situations and trying to look at them from a mature mindset.
Mm.
Now, it's much easier said than done. I don't think anybody is just born with emotional intelligence. I think it's something that we ourselves have to, like any skill, I think we have to grow. It's like sharpening your tools. You have to put in the work. And I think that emotional intelligence, I think maybe a sister of that is empathy, or maybe something that just helps you, I guess, grow in that skill set is
Mm-hmm.
empathy. I think you can't really have it without having that first. Um, so yeah, I think that's kind of how it looks for me. Yeah, it's definitely something that I am not an expert in by any means, and I'm very excited in getting stronger at it and just really expanding my knowledge as to what it really is and how it can show up and how I can be better at it in my own life.
Well, your response could have fooled me because it definitely sounded like an emotionally intelligent person. In fact, you actually covered pretty much all the questions I had for you. So, if you guys
Oh, I
like,
trust me. I have
we can
much more I can share. Don't you
wrap this up
worry.
right now. No, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. And you just touched on so many things that we are going to elaborate a bit more on throughout our episode today. But yes, I wanted to ask Caitlin what it meant to her personally because I actually looked up the definitions of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. And I found that the distinction between the two were quite interesting. So, are you guys ready to hear it?
Drum roll.
All right, here we go. Emotional maturity refers to overall emotional development and stability, enabling individuals to handle situations with patience and perspective.
Okay. Okay.
So when I hear that, I hear a lot about then being able to identify your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
even be able to identify them. I'm angry. I'm sad.
Right.
Um, yeah, and having be able to process that emotion in a healthy way, and then release the emotion and not have the emotion dictate your decisions. That is what emotional maturity is sounding like to me. What about you, Caitlin?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think too, and I'm so excited to like dive into all this more. Like I, what I talked about 2 minutes ago, I'm like, girl, I have so much more I want to say. So I am so ready for
And I'm
this.
so glad that you do. But it
Oh
was still
yes,
such a great response.
for sure. I'm so pumped. No, I think too, we need to lean into the word maturity for that because and that's not to say, oh, if you're over the age of 18, like you
Right.
must be able to do this. Girl, there's so many times where I'm just like, I'm sad. I'm going to do this. And I'm not thinking like, well, why am I sad and where is that coming
Mhm.
from? And, I mean, identifying really what's happening and all of these different things that you just listed, that's huge.
I
I
think
don't
so
know many
too.
people at all who do that. I think, and that's not to shame anybody. I just think that in
Right.
general, we're all just kind of getting through life being reactive,
Yes.
which is
Great
not
word.
not
Reactive.
always bad because
Yeah.
we're only human. We're not going to be robots with this stuff, but absolutely we are reactive first and then we
Hmm.
maybe process and think about it later. Hindsight is
Yeah.
2020. So
Yes.
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, the reactive part, and I want to touch on that more throughout later in the episode. And so we'll move on to the definition of emotional intelligence. Involves the ability to recognize, understand, and manage one's own emotions and the emotions of others,
Okay.
which aids in conflict resolution in interpersonal relationships.
Ooh. Okay.
So, Caitlin, you mentioned in your response of what emotional intelligence means to you. You
Yeah.
mentioned about being an empath and having to be very mindful of not absorbing everybody's emotions.
Yes.
So, I was like thinking as I was reading the definition of emotional intelligence, like regardless if you're an empath or not, like you said, um, what do you think would help an individual to be able to not absorb somebody's emotions and stay grounded
Oh,
and centered? Yeah, I had a feeling that might have been like a heavy one. It's a heavy one for me too,
yeah.
but if you'd like to run with that, I'd love to
Yeah.
hear what you have to say.
No, of course. That is a great question. And I think that it's something that a lot of people go their whole lives either struggling to answer or struggling to put the work in to really do, which
Yeah.
both are understandable. So I think for me, there are different tools that I have like just taken on and tried to, put in my daily life, I guess, in these
Hmm.
situations. I know I preach about gratitude a lot, but often when I am feeling in my head about something or I feel like I can't explain it. Like if I've been in a situation and I just feel there's a lot of negative energy that someone
Hmm.
has and it's just draining me down. Um, I'm gonna be honest, guys. It's really hard to stay in that negative funk when you are expressing gratitude. And we're going to
Mm.
talk about gratitude a lot more.
Yes.
We have an episode we want to do eventually, so I will just kind of put a pin in that.
Yeah.
But definitely, um, that is something I try to do. There's something else that I have been doing over the past few years, and it's hard. It's really hard, especially for me. And it is all about setting boundaries.
Mm.
So, for example, last, I don't know, winter, I went through, uh, I get like seasonal depression and this stuff. And, I just kind of had this period where I was like, I almost was kind of like hibernating, which is like a lot of us do, but it was like, okay, it'd be end of the workday and the sun's been long set and I don't, I just want to do things that are bringing me joy and giving my mind a feeling of peace so that I can unwind and not feel like I'm in this funk. So I felt like I was being called in that season to do everything all at once, whether it was
Okay.
go to this party, talk to this person, do this, do that, whatever. And that's not to say that, oh, I don't want to do those things, or, oh, like, no, you should never do those things. But in that season, I could feel that different energies and just different things were going to be maybe kind of detrimental to what I was
Mm.
going through.
Hmm.
And again, it was a season. I'm not saying, oh, you should just never see your friends and never, like, no, of course. It was just a period. And it was really hard for me to kind of say no to things because I didn't want to hurt
Hmm.
people's feelings and I didn't want to, I didn't want people to think they did something wrong or them think like,
Hmm.
well, she doesn't want to be my friend. And it's like, no, that's not it. I just know that I need this space right now just
Hmm.
for me.
Yeah.
Just because I know that if I'm around different things, it's going to only make me that much more in this funk, I guess
Yeah.
I can say, for lack of a better term. Um,
Reactive.
yeah, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think
Yeah.
so. That yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's having boundaries is something
Hmm.
that I have tried to do, and that's just one example. But it's not always it's not easy. It's never easy because I am naturally someone that wants to be around my friends and wants to do this and wants to do that, but I also need to check in with myself and make sure that I'm okay and I'm at 100 so that I can be the friend that they need.
Yes.
Um, and honestly, too, I know I've talked about this before. My faith is really important to me.
Hmm.
Sometimes I just read some Bible. And that's not to say you all have to go out and buy a Bible right now. No. But find something that gives you peace and helps center you
Yes.
amidst all the noise. I truly, truly am very big on that. Now, I will say, Virginia, I know you asked me that question. So those are habits and things that I have kind of tried to just, make a part of my daily life or as needed basis.
Yeah.
I did a little research,
Good.
and I was pretty, I don't know what the term is, I guess surprised in some ways to kind of see. So the account, I will make sure I get this right. So there is a mental health counselor, licensed mental health counselor, that his handle on YouTube, or his YouTube channel, I should say, is called Therapy to the Point. First name is Jeffrey. I didn't catch the last name. I don't think it was listed, but Jeffrey Therapy to the Point on YouTube. And he had 5 habits that emotionally intelligent people put into practice. And so I'm just going to list them off because and I think some of these, you're probably familiar with, and some surprised me. So here we go. The first one was pause before you react to something.
Hmm.
So we just kind of covered this one a little bit ago where, a big part of emotional intelligence, if we can throw that out there, is just being reactive. And we've all
Hmm.
done it. We're all going to do it again. We're not here saying, oh, we have perfected it and we're the masters. Absolutely not. But if you can pause, if you can make yourself just say, hold on a minute, what's the best way for me to respond to this situation?
Yeah.
And I say this knowing how hard it is to do that and how
Hmm.
easy it would be to just lead with, oh, I can't believe that girl, or oh my God, I can't believe my boss said that, or this or that or whatever. But when you pause, you take control of yourself in that moment. We can't
Hmm.
necessarily control what we're feeling, but we can control how we react in the
Yes.
moment. We can control our actions. So that was
Hmm.
pretty big for me.
Can I bring up one thing?
Absolutely. Go for it. Go for it.
So I've heard um, that there's the taking the pause
Hmm.
and then doing a breathing practice
Okay.
because that actually brings oxygen back to your brain so
I
you can
like
think
it.
more clearly. So I think the two are a powerful duo, pause
Yes.
and breathe. So that's awesome that that's one of the first
Absolutely.
habits.
Yeah, no, 100%. So number two, so this one I kind of touched upon, and I was like, okay, sometimes I do this in my life, and I want to get better at doing it. So I like where he's going with this. Number two, set boundaries
Hmm.
and deal with the guilt that may come with that.
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute. Now, we just talked about people pleasing several
Hmm.
episodes ago, and we were talking about how it is so hard to say no, and how
Hmm.
no can be a full sentence, and you don't even need to give an explanation or, overcompensate or do this or that. You can just set your boundaries.
Hmm.
And he talked about how you probably will feel some guilt, but you'll also recognize the emotional intelligence that comes with this is recognizing that that guilt is still better than if you had not set your boundary. Like the guilt is worth it. The
Hmm.
guilt doesn't mean that what you did was wrong. It doesn't mean
Hmm.
that your boundary was wrong. So that's
Yeah.
pretty big.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, ooh, okay, like I'm listening. I need to do
Hmm.
this
Yes.
more. Um, Number three of the habits that emotionally intelligent people, of the 5 habits that
Hmm.
emotionally intelligent people put into action. Number three, communicate without judgment. So he gave this example of being around a group of people. And let's say you're telling a story, or you're in conversation, and you are in the middle of this interesting topic, and
Mm-hmm.
someone starts saying something and talking over you. Now, we could go with the heart or with the brain, and the heart would immediately go, well, that was really rude, and the heart might react and have you say, hello, I was talking here, and get pretty defensive, which understandable, but not the best approach, right? It's probably not going to get you anywhere. So instead, communicating without judgment would look like saying something like, hmm, I think I might have been interrupted here. And you can do it in a way that is respectful
Mm-hmm.
and not sounding petty or passive or something like that, but just kind of stating the fact. And you can still, be cordial with that person and everything, but, just acknowledging that, oh, I wasn't quite done, but I'd love to hear what you have to say, something like that. Virginia, I see the gears turning.
Yeah, I do. Well, first, I love these habits. So I actually um, had someone very close to me who kept over talking
Oh.
me. And I don't know if this was the best way to handle it, but I just stopped,
Hmm.
looked directly at them. Direct eye contact, people, that's, yeah. Um, Apparently, I'm very good at it because to the point where I've heard like I have these darts for eyes, but I just stopped. I didn't yell, I didn't belittle or anything. I just looked directly at the person. I said, "Why are you over talking me?"
I like it. I
The
like it.
person stopped and they said, "I had no idea that that's what I was doing. I apologize." And I was like, "Okay, we can move on."
Okay. First off, that's really proud of you for doing that. Um, Second off, it's those beautiful eyes, girl. It's
Oh,
just they see into the soul. They're just woo. And third, my question for you is, having said that, did you find that that person was more self-aware in future
yes,
conversations?
yes.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
powerful stuff. Okay, I like it.
And Kayla and I on our podcast, we talk a lot about asking questions. And, I'm asking this question because I'm genuinely curious as to why, without any judgment, right?
Hmm.
So the whole dynamic could have been very different. Like, oh my God, like once again, you're over talking me and like I don't appreciate it, being very disrespectful. Could have gone with that. Or not even say anything and just continue to let the person do it because it's that emotional avoidance of not
Yep,
wanting to bring up the what's the fussy thing. You don't want to be fussy, you don't want to be that person, but now you're enabling that behavior.
absolutely.
So, and Caitlin, again, like you said, we are not perfect. Most of the time, we're not even aware that this is what we're doing. So, if you are the one who's calling it out, yes, it is far more effective if you remove the judgment, if it's coming from a place of curiosity, genuine curiosity, while also still, like, defending yourself. Because it really, I just got to a point in the conversation, and we were very close together too. We were in close, tight quarters, and I just, yeah, looked at this person and asked what I asked, and then we were able to move on. So I know the people pleasing.
Hmm.
Um, and saying no or asking that hard question is very difficult and it feels uncomfortable. It feels unnatural because it is a skill set we have yet to really strengthen over time. but it's an invaluable skill set, and you can start right now, and it can be a daily practice, and it doesn't have to be really anything, like huge. But yeah, it just made me think of that,
That's
when you
great.
brought up that habit. So yeah.
And I'm just thinking too, in that situation, really any situation where someone, is being curious and calling out what happened
Hmm.
because they're trying to stop it without, making it be this emotional, hectic, dramatic thing because it doesn't need to
Yes,
be. So I guess
exactly.
my thought is if you say something like that and you're
Hmm.
not met with a good reaction, if you are
And
met
that
with
can
someone
happen.
who's
That
like,
can happen.
what's wrong with you? What's your
Hmm.
problem?
Yeah.
What advice do you think, Virginia, you would have for people if they deal with something like that?
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the why we are fearful. It's
Hmm.
because of that reaction right there.
Exactly.
So, yes. Um, so what I've learned so far is that this is where emotional intelligence comes in, is that you are able to tell, oh, this person is in no position to have this conversation right now,
Hmm.
because they're personally attacked, walls are up, defensive, there is no getting through. There's no getting through. So I find for my peace, to preserve my peace and have my boundaries intact, is just be like, I feel like this conversation is no longer productive.
Mm.
And that is actually something else I did with this same person in a separate situation. I just got to the point we were on the phone. I remember just saying, I feel like this conversation is no longer productive. So I feel like once, we're able to have a more productive conversation, but I'm
Hmm.
going to hang up the phone now and I'll talk to you another time. And yeah, guys, that's the risk you take, with someone who is emotionally dysregulated and is reactive. They could be really nasty too about it. And that's really hard because, especially if you're a people pleaser and an empath, you're like, that's not what I meant. Like, that's not, please don't be mad. Please don't be mad. Then it gets to the point where, checking in with yourself and being like, but you don't deserve that.
Hmm.
You don't deserve that either. You don't deserve that mistreatment. You don't deserve that abuse. You don't deserve somebody who resorts to name calling and belittling and making you feel really bad about yourself. It's like, if anything, I hope that if you have someone like that in your life, I hope that's like if you're listening to this, like, oh, maybe I maybe I do need to be more mindful of this relationship, with this person. Because I'll say, like, when you start operating from a place of more self-love and self-worth, your tolerance gets pretty low for people like that.
Yeah.
I can have, really difficult conversations and still feel like something is coming out of it because I am working it out with somebody who's emotionally regulated, is aware of their emotions, and is trying to have a more logical, sound conversation. And maybe we're trying to, like, have some common ground or something. Or maybe you can't get on the same page about whatever it is. And without going too like deep with that, we're in this very hot political climate in our country. So, we have difference of opinions and we have different views, and that's okay. But at the same time, you have to keep this in mind. When we are having these conversations, if you've never, like, heard these talks go on, these back and forth. I feel like the person who comes in is like just so heated, like is already ready to like, go to town. So they're not even emotionally regulated. They're not calm. You can tell in the way that they talk, and how they interact with this. But like they're already so geared up for war, for like a verbal psychological war. And it's like, whoa, like, so to me, that's not healthy. That's not effective. You can't really like have a you know uh, basically like a very open, honest conversation. And I also noticed that whatever it is that we're talking about is filtered through our lens, and it's usually stemming from a personal experience, not facts, not logic. So if it's not us personally, then we know somebody. We know somebody. That's one person that you've attached this certain like talking point to, and it's like, well, I know somebody who went through that and with a right. And there's how many people on this planet? But that was the one person that you know of personally that fits with the agenda that you're trying to push and the narrative, and then that's it. To you, that is an emotionally mature, intelligent conversation, and it's not. It's not. Reality is it's not.
I love that you, yeah, I don't even mean to cut you off if you had
No,
more
no,
for that.
not at all.
I love that you brought that up because I mean it's so common. It's just in everyday America. And no, we won't get too into it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I think people show up to those conversations, they are not showing up to listen. No one
Right.
is really listening.
Yeah.
People listen only so that they can respond with the next point,
Yes.
with the
Yeah.
next debate. We
Mm-hmm.
don't listen to understand. And
That's very
that
true.
is our downfall. In all of these arguments, debates, we say we want these healthy conversations, but nobody shows up just with their guard down, willing to acknowledge that the person they're talking to, even if they disagree on something wholeheartedly, is still a person. They're still a person. There's,
And Caitlin, I love that because we forget that there is a person behind that.
yep, yep.
And if we had the emotional intelligence, the emotional maturity, and I also think the vulnerability to say, hey, that's really interesting that you keep mentioning it. Could you tell me more about that?
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I could tell you more. So it comes from like, okay, so what you're telling me, and then you see how like the conversation becomes, what's the word I'm looking for? Not emotionally charged.
It's productive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It becomes far more productive, and notice how it's asking questions.
Hmm.
Because you're, like Caitlin was saying, we go into these conversations just to prove a point, to come off, right and justify, but it's never to really get to know the other person,
Right.
why they think the way they think, why they have these beliefs, these views. We just go right in because we are being conditioned to do so, which is taking us farther and farther away from being able to have healthy human interactions and genuine connections with people who may not agree with what I believe in. And that's another emotional avoidance too. It's like, well, then I just won't even have the conversation, with that person.
Oh,
It's
yes.
like,
And
well,
I
that's
hate
not
that so
helpful
much.
either.
I hate that so much. Like,
It's like
oh,
that doesn't solve anything either,
no,
unless this
no.
person is so unhinged. Where I was like, if you want to believe the sky is purple, Sheila, you go right on ahead, girlfriend. The sky is purple. The sky is purple.
Lilac, violet, you name it. All the purple rain, all the stuff.
All this, like, and that's why, like, guys, like, I know there's some humor to it, but because I'm sure we have all, I shouldn't like say that, that have that assumption. I'm sure, though, at this point with social media and the internet, all that, we have come across maybe one person you're like, yeah, you believe whatever you want to believe, darling.
Uh-huh.
Clearly, this conversation's not productive enough, which requires a level of awareness,
Yes.
by the way. So there's self-awareness, like, I'm really in no position to be talking about this right now, whether it's because I'm not even in the right headspace to have the conversation. Maybe it really triggers me, and I'm like, you know, I I think it's best I don't really, talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's really triggering, and I think it's just best if I don't talk about this. And that actually happened to a client of mine recently. She got into this conversation that maybe kind of led to more of an argument because they were both so passionate about their viewpoints and their beliefs, and they were polar opposite about it. And it got to a point where she felt like she can no longer continue with the conversation. She basically had emotional shutdown because of it. So I was talking to her a little bit more about it. I was like, okay, well, first, to me, what's most important is, did you feel safe enough with this person to be able to even have this kind of conversation and to be vulnerable and to express your beliefs and your values? And she's like, yes. I'm like, great. That's great. That's, to me, I think that's a huge green flag for you to feel safe with this person. And then the other thing was that I was coaching her through was, did you communicate that to that person? That this was highly triggering and that it'd be best to no longer have the conversation. And she said no. I was like, okay, do you think that would have been helpful to that person to let them know instead of thinking that you just shut down on them? She's like, yeah, it would have been very helpful. I was like, great. So that is something we can work with. And so if you're listening to this and, if you're like, well, yeah, no shit, like, great, then you guys are already on it. But for those who struggle with, and yes, without going too deep into it, because we'll have other podcast episodes on this, but it does tend to stem from our upbringing. If you didn't feel safe enough to express your true needs or your own opinions and whatnot, if you got shut down for that, or there was a negative reaction to that, then you learn to internalize and not express that well into your adult years. And then that spills over into relationships and friendships. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely.
coaching.
Wow. Well, okay. I love this. I love where we're going with this. And
And you have a couple more habits. Yes.
I do. And I think that any of these habits, whether you're in situations like what Virginia has described or otherwise, I just think these are all very good things to just kind of keep in the back of your mind. So I love it. I love where we're going. Number 4. And again, this is our 5 habits of emotionally intelligent people. Number 4 is emotionally intelligent people name their emotions clearly, not vaguely. So an example might be, you're with someone and something happens and, you just go with, oh, I feel sad. Like, I didn't like what just happened between us. Like, we just had or let's say there was some kind of an awkward encounter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, "Oh, I feel bad. Oh, I feel bad. I don't like how that transpired." Maybe a better term for that would be shame. I feel ashamed. I feel ashamed of what just happened there. Or, it could go the opposite in a much more positive direction. Like, rather than just saying, oh, I feel happy. Oh, I feel just so grateful right now. Or, oh, I feel elated because XYZ. My partner and I are doing this. Like, we're taking this trip. Or, oh, this happened at work. I feel so grateful that I, got that promotion or whatever it might be, not
Mm-hmm.
just happy. And not to say you can't say happy or bad or sad, like that's fine. But, emotional intelligence, according to, these tips, suggests that you can find a whirlwind of different emotions in there,
Yeah.
in that brain of yours, and that there's just so much more to it, and there's so much more depth to it than just
Mm-hmm.
happy, sad, mad, all those things.
Yeah.
Um, and then the fifth one, and this is one that I myself can, relate to, I think, in some ways, just over my past. I mean, all of these I can relate to, of not
Mm-hmm.
not meeting the mark, and like, oh, okay, I could have done better in that area. Number five is treat negative feedback
Mm.
data,
Yeah.
like data, rather than an attack.
Yes.
So I know that we all walk
That's a
around this
powerful one.
world with these things called egos, right?
Mm.
And we all just, are here for the self love and the confidence and this and that. And like, I'm not shaming that, but we all know that we're not perfect, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And now, granted, there are levels to this, right? If someone is just being cruel to you or
Mm-hmm.
bullying you or just, relentlessly coming up to you and saying hurtful things, that's one thing. That's
Right.
not what this is about. This is about, let's say you have a dear friend or maybe a boss. It could be
Mm-hmm.
something in a professional manner too. There's someone who believes in you, who knows you, and is coming to you with some sort of um, commentary or feedback, whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
that they are, in good conscience, they want you to take in a positive way. We've heard of constructive criticism. We've heard of all those types of routes where you can take something that is less than satisfactory to hear and you can make something amazing out of it and you can grow from it. That is what this is about. It's
Yeah.
about separating the sucky feelings that might come with hearing that you're anything less than perfect,
Right.
and instead taking that and being like, all right, challenge accepted, here we go.
Yeah.
I got that. Thank you. This is information for me. I'm going to process this data, if you will, and then I'm just going to see what I can do with it. And we ourselves, you know, I mean, Virginia, you and I both say we have put so much of our heart and souls and countless hours into this podcast, but we are always trying to find ways continually to improve. And so, we can even try to apply that, or not try, we have, without even realizing that that was one of these steps. We have been
Yeah.
applying that in our own meetings about what's going right, what can be worked on, or what
Mm-hmm.
areas can we maybe do better, not do better, but you know what I mean, where are things that we can maybe improve upon, or get creative with, or just get excited about. Because if we're dwelling on the negative, and we're dwelling on how we didn't hear what we wanted to hear, or we don't like how something turned out, then we're never really gonna get anything good out of it, because we're just gonna beat ourselves up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just gonna be a recurring cycle where you're gonna be stuck in this thing. And so or habit number five
Yeah.
takes a lot of maturity. All of these do.
Yes.
They all
Yeah.
do. They take a lot of thinking with your brain first before
Mm-hmm.
your heart. And I said earlier when you asked me about emotional maturity, Virginia, I lead with my heart very often, probably more than not. And in sometimes some ways that's good. It doesn't always, it's not necessarily a weakness. I would
Mm-hmm.
say it's something that I can be quite proud of. However, I do need to, and especially after this conversation, plan to really process situations a bit more before I just let myself go in one direction that I really want to do the thinking. Um, so yeah, all five of those things, and we can in our show notes, we can include the video.
Yes.
I have the link and everything right here ready to go, so I'll make
Awesome.
sure we have that. But yeah, I just loved those. I thought those were so cool, and I'm like, I might do one or two of those, but I don't really do many of them, and I definitely don't do them every day. So so I'm like, all right, I'm taking notes for sure.
No, those are great habits. I actually wanted to touch on, I believe it was habit number 5 about negative feedback. And then
Yes,
the reframe on that would be that
reframing.
data. It's data you're collecting about yourself.
Hmm.
And Caitlin, if I understood this right, if it's coming from like more of a trustworthy source,
Exactly.
then because it'll come from a very probably more loving and constructive place.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
And if it's not coming from that kind of source, if it's just someone being nasty, being ugly,
That's
um,
different. Yeah.
that's a completely different experience. So on that, okay, so since you used our podcast and as an example, we are putting ourselves out there. Okay, so that means we have to be open to feedback and to criticism. I do feel like for the most part, though, because Caitlin and I, are very intentional with this podcast, that I think for the most part, we will attract the kind of people that are empathetic and are emotionally intelligent and emotionally mature for the most part to be a part of this community with us so we can keep these conversations going. So I have no doubt, Caitlin, that that's what we're doing. But we could still have somebody who disagrees with us, doesn't like what we have to say, doesn't, you know,
Doesn't like
or
how we look, doesn't like how we talk,
how
doesn't
we look,
like
yeah,
our
all these,
topics,
yeah,
anything,
yeah,
anything across the board.
anything,
Doesn't like my
anything,
shirt, anything,
yeah,
anything.
yeah. And we actually posted one of our clips on a social media platform, and we had an angry emoji reaction to it. And I I actually didn't even faze me because I was like, could have been a mistake. That person could have been triggered by what we were talking about. Maybe because what we were saying wasn't wrong. It was because whatever message they were resonating with was filtering through their lens and it
Hmm.
caused them to be upset,
Hmm.
showing a strong emotion to that. So I remember you, Caitlin, flagging it and telling me, is there something wrong here? And I went, no, there's absolutely nothing wrong here. Because in my opinion, if that person felt so compelled to write out a lengthy, comment as to why they're all fired up, by all means, by all
Yeah.
means. But it didn't faze me because I deep down knew what that messaging was, the true intention behind it. So it's not my responsibility how you took it. We're not causing harm. We're not causing divide. So, as far as I'm concerned, like you're entitled to your opinion, you're entitled to your emotional reaction. It's not my responsibility
Hmm.
to emotionally regulate your ability. Tell me, well, why are you so angry? What do I need to do to change? No, I'm not doing any of that. Unless it got to a point for whatever reason, which I highly doubt it, that we lost the vision for our podcast,
Right.
right? Like we strayed so far away, and that's not gonna happen. So I just remember going, cool, let's mix things up a little bit. It can't always be heart emojis, and so I'm like, yeah, that's what happens when you put yourself out there.
Right.
But for the most part, Caitlin and I have been getting positive feedback, which is so greatly appreciated, but we've also been getting technical feedback because we want to improve.
Right.
We want to grow and evolve, and we want you guys to be there every step of the way. So
We don't have, producers, directors, script writers, all these different things. It's just us. And of course, Andrew, Virginia's hubby, who's our favorite intern. Yeah, he's wonderful. He's great. But yeah.
So guys, this is why there's the blonde and talking blondes. Before Caitlin and I started the recording of this episode, I could not figure out the angle of my webcam, and it was pissing me off until he's like, "Why don't you just like move the screen over to here?" And I went, "Wow."
Oh
Guys,
my gosh. Listen, we made it work. We made it work. We keep him around for all the reasons. He's great. He's great at what he does. We love it.
No, this is I love this topic of today's podcast episode. I have a couple more questions for you. Okay,
Let's go. Let's go.
But I did we touched on actually quite a bit, which is fantastic. But and we talked a little bit about this too, but I wanted to get maybe a little deeper with this. But how can emotional intelligence improve romantic or close friendships?
Ooh. How can emotional intelligence improve romantic or close friendships? That's the question. I want to share. Okay. So, oh gosh. So I know with emotional intelligence, I'm just thinking of conflict, right? Because I think that in itself is hard to navigate, whether it's someone you're close to or not. I just think, if everybody was happy and everything was great and we all just skipped and held hands and whatever, then we wouldn't even probably be having this conversation. We wouldn't even maybe have topics for a podcast because we wouldn't have any emotional stuff at all to cover. But I think with emotional intelligence, you are I'm acknowledging what I'm feeling. I'm also acknowledging what my partner is feeling or my close friend. I am doing my best to regulate my emotions in this high intensity moment. And I'm also working with my partner or my close friend to not regulate theirs because only they can do that, but I'm working with them to find a common ground, to find something where in this intense moment of frustration, anger, sadness, whatever it may be, I'm realizing that our emotions don't define us. Our emotions are fleeting. You think about this. Think about the number of emotions that you go through in a day. You might wake up tired, grumpy, you have your morning coffee or you do your workout or whatever, then you're feeling energetic and excited and motivated. And then, there's so many different things. Emotions are fleeting. People are not. People are still people. And so having that emotional intelligence is realizing that whatever negative feelings we're having right now are going to pass. And we're not going to let those overtake what we have. I think that in itself is huge. Now, I myself can attest to having friendships in the past where the other person was not there. They were not ready to regulate.
Okay.
And that's a scary feeling. Not scary in, oh, I better run and hide, but scary in, what does this friendship look like in the long run?
Yeah.
And so I'm not really close with those people anymore. And that's okay. Again, we talked about boundaries earlier. That's all right. I've also had romantic relationships ages and ages ago where there was not much regulation. And of course, that's where the people pleasing comes in. And that's where the perfectionist, I'm just going to be exactly what this person wants and it's going to be great and I'm going to live up to all these impossible standards and everything's going to be wonderful and I'm going to. Emotional intelligence is knowing that you and you alone are responsible for how you react to something.
Hmm.
You are not responsible for how other people react to things.
Right.
And so I think in close relationships, especially, if we can get individuals who care about each other, who can recognize that if person A and person B are a couple, or A and B are friends, or A, B, C, D, E, F, or all a friend group, whatever, if everybody can get on the same page with that, then you're
Hmm.
going to, sky's the limit with the amazing
Yes.
things that your relationship can do, the joy, the connection, the memories, the lifelong friendship. That is a recipe right there for all
Yeah.
of those wonderful things.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And do you think too, in a way, because like, okay, so we talked about how we are responsible for our
Mm-hmm.
own emotions and emotional regulation and how we react. We are not responsible for the other person. And that other person you can care deeply for. Your best friend, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. And I'm sure it's very hurtful to be the one on the other end who's emotionally regulated and not perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but you're calm, you're grounded, you're centered. You have like this foundation that like you can't budge. You're like a strong tree, essentially, or like a rock. And you're wise, and you're not bringing things up to stir anything. These are real things to address, and you want to do that, with the person who you're involved with. Um, if the person uh, doesn't see it that way and feels like it's an attack, because we
Mm-hmm.
talked about this earlier. But I think I'm the one that answered the question, like how would I handle it? How would you handle that, Caitlin?
So is the question, if I'm being emotionally intelligent in a
Mm-hmm.
situation and the other person is getting defensive and
Correct.
is then in turn being combative, is that kind of what you're saying? How would I handle it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, that is so tough. I mean, it's it's such a sucky situation to be in. I think the only way to handle it, the smartest way, is to separate yourself from that situation.
Okay.
Um, and I struggle with this sometimes. So I love my mom so much. She's wonderful. When my mom and I argue or fight, she can go from like 0 to 100. Now she's not cussing me out. She's not none of that. But she's ready. Like she's like got the gloves on. She's there, and I'm more like I'm feeling this way because these words were said. And granted, I'm not trying to be like little miss, textbook like how to have healthy argument. Like I'm not, it's not like I'm trying to, whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like the only child in me. I don't, because I didn't have siblings where I don't know how to have like a fight that gets like
Hmm.
down and like
Okay.
mean and this and that. Like I will avoid at all costs. Like the name calling, I will avoid someone's past mistakes they've made. I don't throw that in their face. Like I'm that person that wants to focus on the here and now and exactly what happened because I
Okay.
think that's fair.
Yeah.
What trips me up is that
Mhm.
most people are not that way. And they love to remind you about what you did 3 years ago or how you actually are not very good at XYZ or this or that. And you're like, Okay, great, but what does that have to do with right now? So,
Hmm.
in a
Yeah.
roundabout way, for your question, that was a roundabout way of getting there, I guess. But and I don't just mean with my mom, I just mean in general. My mom, I
Hmm.
love her. She's my favorite person to, hug and go to for all the wonderful, loving, motherly things, and she's my least favorite person to fight with because it's just like, whoa. Um,
Yeah.
and part of it is just she's stubborn the older she gets, and she's like, this is who I am. And I'm like, fair, that's fair. So
Hmm.
in moments like that, or even in moments with other people, um, I think the best thing to do, and she has suggested it herself, it's not like, oh, I'm
Hmm.
holier than thou. Like she suggested as well, take a break. Let things be. Doesn't mean, oh,
Yeah.
we're just gonna shove it under the rug and not talk about it again.
Right.
We're just gonna take a break. We're gonna take a break. Now, if it is someone who is maybe someone who you see as a friend or a partner,
Hmm.
and it's someone who is not as permanent as, a mother or sibling or, this or that, that in itself, I think, can be much more difficult because we do get so attached to people. We want to keep these people around. We think, well, maybe I could do better, or well, maybe if I just do these things to fit their needs.
Hmm.
No, no, no. Now it's easier said than done. It's
Hmm.
much easier said, especially when you're not the one in it. But no, you are sacrificing and making yourself small in order to make someone else feel big.
Yeah.
And that's not a life to live. That's not it. This is not it. So, in moments like that, I think you need to really seriously consider maybe it's just a small argument. Maybe it's just something where, I'm trying to regulate the situation and someone is really heated. Okay, fine, whatever. If it's a recurring thing, if the disrespect is a pattern, that's
Hmm.
when you need to do some real soul searching and think, what value is this actually adding to my life? Or, Virginia, in your words, I don't think this is productive anymore.
Hmm.
Whether it's a conversation or a friendship or a long-term romance or, what have you. Like, things have a season. Some things are not permanent. That doesn't mean
Hmm.
someone's a bad person. It just means that they might be going in a very different direction than you are. And
Yeah.
that's okay. But the longer that you tie yourself down to that, you lock yourself in, you're in chains. You are trapped. And it is of your own doing. If you see the negativity and if you see that you are trying to handle it maturely and this other
Hmm.
person continues to come at you in every other negative way possible and it happens over and over again, it's a choice. It's a choice. And so we need to remove ourselves from that situation.
Yeah. Wow.
That's my answer.
That's a
Pretty long and pretty all over the place, but
pretty
yeah.
amazing. I loved your answer. And the reason I asked you is because I had a sense, so circling back to our vulnerability episode,
Mhm.
Caitlin shared with us that she grew up with authentic emotional vulnerability. So I had a feeling, Caitlin, that you were on the receiving end of certain people in your life who could easily cross those boundaries,
Yeah, definitely.
and being an empath and being, emotionally intelligent, that would be, and these are people that you care for deeply as well. It's not just some random person, it's somebody that you have a
Mhm.
close relationship with. Do you feel like that what happens is that there's a lack of trust with being able to like go deep with that person, because they're historically known for being emotionally reactive in a negative way?
I think it depends on the situation.
Okay.
But it definitely can lead to that feeling. It definitely can.
Yeah.
And it also can lead me, with that feeling to maybe second guess
Mhm.
or think, maybe I'll just hold off on that conversation, or whatever. Yes, yes. Sometimes. Not always, but sometimes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I imagine that I feel like it's maybe natural to feel like, oh, I can't trust how this person is going to react. So I'm not going to have the conversation, with that person. But it could be really something important to address.
Hmm.
Um, Now, with that all being said, perhaps, you might have to have that awareness, right? And that to be like, okay, whether the person communicated with you or not about maybe just not being in the right headspace to have this conversation and to be respectful of
Hmm.
that. Because if you are like, no, no, we need to address this right here, right now. And we talked about that in our vulnerability episode, the
Yes,
emotional dumping and not respecting one's boundaries. It's not that they don't want to have the conversation. It's just
correct.
maybe in this moment, it'd be best if we don't, so we're more clear headed and we can have more of a healthy, mature conversation so we can come to some kind of common ground. Um, is that something you feel like too is?
Yes, and I'm so glad you said that because honestly, a lot of it for me all ties in together. And for me, and it's work that I need to do on myself,
Mhm.
because I do, as I've said, I do often lead with my heart.
Yeah.
And so I do struggle sometimes with, no, I can't regulate my emotion right now. I need to get this off my chest. I need to
Yeah.
talk about it now. And instead, what I should be doing is going for a walk or,
Mm.
practicing gratitude, maybe calling a friend, maybe going out for a little bit and just doing something that brings me joy. There's hundreds of other things I could be doing, but in those moments, there is a lack of having a hold on my emotions. I'm letting my
Mhm.
emotions, again, sit in the driver's seat when that happens. And it's like, nope, nope, hold on. We're going to do this right now. We're going to do this right now. And instead, what I should be doing is telling myself, telling my emotions, let's wait. Let's think about
Mhm.
this. Or in step one, habit one,
Mhm.
pause before you
Yeah.
react to something and think about
Mhm.
maybe the best way to either respond or just maybe take a break, take a little break because you want to show up when someone else is ready to show up. And
Yeah.
you both, in my opinion, I think if you want any relationship, whether it's a family member, a relationship, friend, whatever, any relationship that's going to have a good foundation, you need to try to both show up for these hard conversations with
Mhm.
as much uh, mental clarity and readiness as possible. And that's not
Yes.
to say that you can just have everything be on pause until someone's ready.
Right.
Because there
Right.
are situations where it's like, no, 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 this is a big deal.
Yeah.
We can't just talk about this maybe tomorrow or next Wednesday. Like this is a
Yes.
big deal. We have to hash this out. We don't
Mhm.
have to be mean to each other, but we need to talk. There are moments like that too, and that's okay. With
Yeah.
emotional intelligence also comes knowing when to decipher the difference between those two things, I think.
Yes. And I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm thinking like, you know, in a way, it could be a tactic to get out of hard conversations. Like,
Mm.
can't talk about this right now. I'm not in the right
Mhm.
headspace. I'm tired. Well, we were talking earlier about like there's patterns
Yes.
and
Yes.
that eventually it becomes a choice to not engage in these hard conversations that are very much
Mhm.
needed to have. So, Kayla, I'm so glad you brought that up because their intelligence would be able to decipher that for for the most part because that's why I brought up the trust factor in
Okay.
these relationships. Can I trust that this person will have this conversation with me, and that we will come together and find a solution, or have common ground? Because when that person emotionally shuts down all the time, um, doesn't want to have the hard conversation, I think you do lose trust
Yes.
naturally
Yeah.
over time. You still love them, you still care for them, but actions speak louder than words.
Hmm.
And when someone's demonstrating, like, I don't, this doesn't um, matter to, this doesn't matter to me as much,
Yeah.
to work this out with you, that's kind of like, that's a crappy feeling.
I had a roommate several years ago who was very avoidant. We were very good friends before we
Hmm.
became roommates, but looking back, she was really just there for the fun times. Like, let's go drink wine. Let's go out to the bars, or let's go see this movie. It was never like anything serious.
Hmm.
And I'd never really thought about it before living together. But whenever it came to talking about anything more than, oh, those flowers look really pretty, or oh, that was a great concert, or whatever, it was like she didn't want to even be in the same room.
Mm.
And it got to be that I was confrontational, um, when I was really just the person that was trying to establish, you know, hey, when this happens in our shared living space, I don't I don't necessarily feel respected. I would really appreciate it if we could divvy up the chores in our
Mm.
kitchen. Or if when we're done, you know, cooking, we clean up the sink afterwards, and we wash, the areas on the counters instead of just leaving food there for days, which happened. Girl, it
Hmm.
happened. It was disgusting. It was really bad. And I'm not trying to get on another long-winded story here, but and no, it could have been so much worse, but I say all this because that was a really unique situation for me because I really couldn't
Yeah.
escape it. We lived together.
Right.
So it got to the point where I kind of convinced myself I'm the problem here. I'm the
Mm.
problem because all of our mutual friends think she's, you know, the bee's knees,
Yeah.
and they're all hanging out without me and not even inviting me anymore because she's probably telling them all these things about me. And I'm just here like, okay, all I'm trying to do is have some boundaries and respect myself
Yeah.
and respect you. And now I'm the bad guy. So I say all this,
Mm.
one, to just share a story that came to mind, and
Yes.
two, to say that there are some really weird life scenarios where it is kind of hard to get out of that. Now I'm not still roommates now. We are with her now, and we're not friends anymore, and that's for the best.
Yeah.
But those are some really weird situations where, there's all kinds of people out there, but there are just some that are just not ready. Maybe
Hmm.
they're scared. Maybe they grew up in a home family lifestyle where you just don't have conversations that are anything other than like surface level good
Yeah.
things. You don't get any deeper than that. You
Yeah.
don't I don't know. But those people, they're out there. They're not bad people. They're just not maybe the kind of people that you can spend a long time of life with and have quality
Yeah.
connection with. Um, so yeah, I don't know how I even got to that story, but I just,
Well, I'm
oh,
actually glad you shared that story because, you know, it's been some time since you and I have had roommates.
yes,
But, our viewers, our community, maybe you guys are out there and you're like, that's my situation with a roommate right now. I mean, it's been
yeah,
years since I've had a roommate, but it took me back to that time in my life. I had a roommate. I lucked out. I had an amazing roommate. But if we ever did have to, address something or talk about something, we were able to do it. without
That's great.
any problems. Yeah. So, Caitlin, you had a bit more of a, uh, I'm just gonna call it simply a negative experience.
Yeah.
And you, though, Caitlin, you brought up earlier, though, like just because um, you are the one, like you didn't say this, but this was the message I think you were relaying. Just because you are the one who wants to like address something in a very mature and healthy way, that doesn't mean you're making waves. Okay? So if the person perceives it as that,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay, well, if that's how you're going to look at it, that is how you're going to look at it.
And it's
And
a reflection on them, not you.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I don't know why, but I'm thinking like, I'm not making waves to drown you.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying
So,
to keep our boat,
I,
from sinking.
exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I'm so glad you shared that story because it got my mind going right back to those days. Like, oh yeah,
Oof.
that could be
Yeah.
anyone listening right now, their reality, whether it's, hopefully it's a good living situation, but
And I mean, I had wonderful roommates too. This was like just an extra crazy time in life because I'd had a horrible breakup and I
mm,
needed to relocate, and we both got this shared, uh, apartment, townhome, whatever you'd call it, together.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, good, I'm gonna like lean into my girlfriends and this and that
Yep.
and just whatever. And it was like, oh my God, it was a very isolating feeling. And that's you know
Yeah.
what, I'm not going to just you know laugh it off like, oh, it's fine, because it wasn't fine. It was
No.
not a good season of life for me. But the flip side of that is that, to your point, Virginia, it is a big reflection on people who actually, let me think about this for a second, how I want to phrase
Hmm.
this. I think, looking back now, in the moment I was very, very hurt and sad and upset, and I thought, why would you treat me this way? I feel so isolated. I feel like you have made me out to be this person that I'm not, just because I want to talk to you about a couple of things, like maybe we wipe your dog's paws off when your dog goes out in the rain and then jumps on my brand new couch that I bought for us. Things like that. I was the bad guy, and I said them very kindly, like little things. And it wasn't like, oh, I have a long list for you. It was just like, we're roommates. This stuff happens. I'm used to it. Are you not used to it? Anyways, at this stage of life where I am right now, all I can feel for someone who does not show up to a confrontational moment with emotional intelligence, all I can feel for that person is sadness
Yeah.
and hope that the growth will come. It's only
Yeah.
something they can do. And that's not to say, oh, I show up perfectly every time, because trust me, honey, I don't. But I want to. If you're afraid to ever try, or you don't know how, then this is your sign. If any of this sounds like stuff that you've like never even, you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, I challenge you. I challenge you to do this. I challenge you to look at, spot your emotions that you're having in the moment, especially in those really, really negative encounters or less than pleasant situations where you're with someone you care about or love, and something happens that makes you feel really upset or hurt or this or that. I challenge yourself to catch yourself in that moment. Catch yourself, identify what's going on
Yeah.
here. And I challenge yourself to really, really approach that person, whether you need to take a minute, take a break, or you do feel that you are ready to discuss something with them. I challenge you to do it with grace, do it with respect, not
Yeah.
just for them, but for yourself as well. Think about the boundaries you might need to set for yourself. It's not easy. It's a skill that we all have to work
Yes.
on. No one's born
Mhm.
able to do this, but this may be your sign that it's something that you might want to or might need to really work on. So.
Oh, well, I think this is a great note to end on. Because
Yeah.
I really appreciate Caitlin so much with your personal stories because they just weave into today's episode beautifully. And thank you so much for coming to episode today with those 5 habits. Those are amazing. We will include those in the show notes for sure. And yeah, we really appreciate you guys so much for again, the positive feedback is or just the openness to share with us. Like, I mean, I get feedback about like how this podcast resonates and that it actually creates space to have these kind of conversations with warmth, with empathy, with emotional intelligence, with emotional maturity. Like that is what Caitlin and I, that is why we are creating this community and having this podcast for those reasons. So we hope you are experiencing it and feeling it, embodying it, and then having it in your day-to-day life. Because this is what, and Caitlin was really great on emphasizing in today's episodes, like to have human connection and healthy interactions. So thank you so much for tuning in. This was a really special topic to have.
Thank you so much, everybody. We can't wait to see you next time with our next fun hot topic. And thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.